We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including lots of offseason trade speculation around teams like the Rangers, the Canadiens, and the Sabres. Plus, we have big updates regarding the New York Islanders and their front office position. It seems like they're getting close to hiring a new president and possibly a GM for hockey operations there. Plus, we have an update from the Avalanche on their coaching staff, as well as the Sens have made a change in their front office as well. We're going to discuss the Sam Bennett situation and the fact that he was not suspended or did not receive anything from player safety. And we have some key injury updates to pass along as well, including a big one on Blues defenseman Torrey Krug, who did not play this year due to an injury that's pretty serious and could derail his career. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here, Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here today. Of course, it's the round two, day two of the playoff action here tonight. Of course, we got the Capitals and Canes and the Oilers and Vegas Golden Knights both kicking off their series. Both games are still ongoing as I record this video. The Capitals and Canes are actually in overtime, and Vegas has taken an early 1-0 lead over Edmonton early in the first period. Capitals and Canes are tied at 1. Big shot differential between the Canes and Caps with a major advantage to Carolina. But Logan Thompson has been outstanding, keeping that game close. So we'll see what happens, and we'll update further on that in the next video. But I know one of the big topics and stories out of last night's game is the injury to Anthony Stolarz, and whether or not we'd see anything today on Sam Bennett from player safety. And the answer turned out to be no. They didn't do anything. There was no fine, no suspension, or anything of that regard regarding Sam Bennett and the contact he had with Anthony Stolarz in the Maple Leaf crease in last night's action. Now, listening to a variety of people here today, and one concussion expert that I follow that I've heard, very familiar with for a long time is Chris Nowinski. Now, you may not know Chris Nowinski. He's a former professional wrestler, Harvard educated, became a leading person in his field, has a PhD in neuroscience, is basically a concussion expert. He's somebody who struggled and dealt with a lot of concussions in his own professional athletic career and kind of made it his life's work to kind of protect athletes, learn more about it. He's done a ton of research, and he tends to weigh in on a lot of these situations with pro sports. When you see players dealing with different injuries, he's been at the NHL, one of the key, influencers here, trying to get them to do more with regards to concussions, acknowledge the impacts of CTE, which we know the league has really yet to do. But in his opinion, Anthony Stolarz was very highly likely concussed on that shot he took off the mask, which came before the collision with Bennett. Of course, it was I think a 95-mile-an-hour wrist shot from Sam Reinhart, I do believe it was, that went off his mask. And based on his, I guess how they kind of analyze his body language and how his reaction was, they feel that there's a pretty good chance that he could have been concussed there. I'm really surprised that I don't know what education level the concussion spotters in the NHL have, or what their background, I'm not sure exactly what all their requirements are, but it's surprising that he wasn't pulled for evaluation after that based on what concussion experts had to say. And then you throw in the fact that he did have that contact from Bennett, and well, it's not a shocker to find out that he could have ended up technically getting two separate injuries to the head in the same game, short span apart. We saw him, unfortunately, getting sick, throwing up at the bench, which is a major sign and warning sign that you have a concussion and need to be seen and be observed at a hospital, which he did end up doing. After he went off the ice, we did find out later that he was taken via ambulance to the hospital for observation. He was released sometime overnight or this morning. Was seen at the rink this morning with his teammates and seemed to be in good spirits, which is a good positive sign. But I would imagine he probably won't play for a little bit. Hard to say what the recovery is, but yeah, Bennett did not get anything from player safety today. And when you watch the play, if you really look at it objectively, I see this all the time. I find fans sometimes struggle when it's your favorite team, your favorite players, those types of things, to look at things objectively. And I'm not defending Sam Bennett here, so don't get me wrong. But if you look at the play, everybody keeps calling this a clear elbow to the head, and to me, it's not an elbow at all. There is no elbow contact to Stolar's head. He does make contact with his head. It's his lower part of his hand, like his glove, in the lower forearm that makes contact. If you really take a still shot of when they are touching each other, you can see Bennett's elbow basically hovering over the back of Stolarz. So It's still a headshot. There is contact. It doesn't seem to be very forceful. To me, Bennett's driving to the net. Like, what he's doing is a hockey play, and I think that's part of the reason why that there's no suspension here. I mean, I know Bennett has a reputation for the accidental on purpose stuff, which is why people's patience and tolerance here is pretty low. It's because of who it is. I think if you throw another player in there that doesn't have any kind of history, maybe it's a different reaction. I know they're still going to be concerned for their goaltender and for Stolarz, but, are you calling for, his head like we've seen Leaf fans, the same way? I'm not sure. But either way, like, we want Stolarz to be okay. I'm not defending Bennett. It should have been a penalty. In my opinion, it's definitely a goaltender interference penalty. Bennett is kind of half in the crease, half not. But, of course, the goalie deserves every right to play their position and make a save. And I don't know that he was really allowed that. So, to me, it's definitely a penalty. I'm not sure it rises to the level of supplemental discipline. That's my take on it. I'm sure I'll get it from Leaf fans saying I'm an idiot, I'm wrong, and because it's their player. But that's how I feel. That's obviously the way the league has looked at it too, because there was nothing today. And I've seen a lot of people make that similar type of feel here. It's like, it's very unfortunate what happened to Stolarz, but it is a hockey play. He drives to the net. And Bennett even said today during the media that he spoke to the media saying that he texted Stolarz. He feels bad for what happened. Didn't even really realize how much contact there was when it first happened. And, he certainly, unfortunately, doesn't want to see his good friend and former teammate get hurt. So we'll see what happens. I don't know how long Stolarz will be out, but nothing coming for Mr. Bennett today from player safety. But it definitely should have been a penalty. I do agree with that. But there were several missed calls in that game, including before Matthew Nye scored, which turned out to be the winning goal. Sam Reinhart on his way to the net taking a shot was tripped up and hard to the boards. There was no call there either. So definitely seems like the refs at times can be picky and choosy on what they call and don't call. It's been wildly inconsistent throughout the whole playoffs, so I don't think it's team-specific in that sense. Now, a bunch of other updates we're going to get into here before we get into the trade speculation. We'll cut some injury stuff, and we got some information from the Blues today. Doug Armstrong, when he spoke to the media, since their season is now over. Dylan Holloway underwent successful surgery for his injury and is going to be rehabbing, but is expected to be ready to go for training camp, so he's not expected to miss the beginning of next year, which is good. Torrey Krug, of course, who did not play this year because of a problem with his ankle, is not expected to make it back. According to Doug Armstrong, Krug is most likely not going to play again. He said after all this time, he's just starting to get back to better quality of day-to-day life, let alone even, think about getting on the ice and getting to a point where he can play hockey at the highest level. So it sounds like the career of defenseman Torrey Krug is most likely done on the on-ice level. So that's unfortunate news for him. A few other injury updates as well in Winnipeg. They did have Mark Scheifele, Josh Morrissey, and Logan Stanley all on the ice today, but they were all wearing non-contact jerseys. So their series, of course, with Dallas gets underway tomorrow night. We don't know what their availability is going to be. If we don't see a change when they skate tomorrow before the game, then it's possible that all of them may not be in the lineup for Game 1. Of course, tonight, Vegas is without Dorofeyev. He remains out, which is a big blow to them, one of their better goal scorers. And veteran defenseman Alex Pietrangelo also out tonight due to illness. So not good there either. Of course, we did get a couple of other updates regarding coaching and front office stuff. The Avalanche today confirmed that Jared Bednar is indeed going to be their coach moving forward. They are not making a coaching change, at least at the head coaching role. However, power play coach Ray Bennett has parted ways with the team, and he is going to be replaced. Of course, their power play certainly struggled in the playoffs, especially at key moments, so they're looking for a new power play coach. And in Ottawa, we found out today that assistant general manager Ryan Bowness is not going to be back with the club next year. Steve Staios has made it known to the other 31 clubs that they can gain permission to speak to him if they wish to hire him in any kind of role. It's a little bit surprising for Bowness. I know last year Staios was extremely complimentary, you could say, of Bowness's work. But he is like one of the few remaining guys from the old regime that was still in the organization, and I guess maybe they felt that they want to get their own people in there. I don't know. I know that they'd love to get the punishment reduced for the Dorion screw-up on the Dadonov trade where they lost the first-round pick. Some people are saying they probably have a deal with the NHL. They have to clear out all the anybody who's possibly connected with that. I don't know. That's probably not right. I'm sure that's not the case, but good theory. I'm sure for Sens fans, they'd love to see that happen. But yeah, Ryan Bowness not coming back, could move on. I would suspect Rob DeMaio, who they brought in last year, as well as one of their familiar faces that they know quite well, very well could slide into that role as a promotion. We'll have to wait and see what the Senators decide to do. The Boston Bruins today re-signed Patrick Brown. Small deal. It's a one-way, two-way deal. Or 1 year, 2-way deal, $775. So not a big deal there. He'll most likely play in the American Hockey League and be, a veteran call-up for them as well. And also another quick note, former Senator, former Oiler prospect Robbie Harventi signs a 3-year deal to return back to Europe and play in Finland. Of course, he was traded last offseason for Xavier Bourgault as the Senators and Oilers swapped prospects, trying to get them a fresh start. And, well, fair to say, neither one of them has really worked out. Harventi did spend the bulk of the season with the Oilers organization injured, so that wasn't good for him. And obviously, going back to Finland is what he feels is best for his career. Apparently, the New York Islanders are getting close to naming at the very least a president, possibly a president and general manager. We know they're obviously revamping their front office after Lou Lamoriello parted ways with the club earlier this offseason. And there's been different times that when I've heard reports and updates on the Islanders that you think maybe they're going to have one guy be president and GM, but then other insiders, the way they talk, it sounds like they are considering having it be a two-person job, so it's not really clear exactly how that's going to work, depending on who you get your info from. I've seen updates from Chris Botta, Arthur Staple, Dave Pagnotta, so I'm not really sure what they're going to end up doing officially, but I know guys like Ken Holland and Marc Bergevin are very high on their list. And Dave Pagnotta reported tonight that Matthew Darche is in the mix for the GM role, but if that was the case, that they would have a more experienced president working above him. The Islanders apparently do have, or at least did have, I don't know if they still do, but they definitely had interest in Montreal Canadiens executive president, or I'm not sure if his exact title, but Jeff Gordon. I don't remember if he's executive vice president or team president. Either way, he reports to Jeff Molson above Ken Hughes. Gordon was a significant interest to the Islanders organization. They did seek permission to speak to him, but all reports that we've seen indicate that Gordon doesn't have interest to leave the Canadiens. I don't know if they actually gained consent or they're still working on that, but seeing it from enough reputable people that Gordon will not be leaving the Canadiens. So we'll see on that front. Marc Bergevin also very much in the mix for the new opening as the Los Angeles Kings GM. He was working in the organization already with Rob Blake as an advisor for the past few years. So we don't know where the Kings are going to go. Do they want to complete like an outsider come in, or what they want to do or how they're going to handle things? But the Islanders very well could have a new front office in place soon by the looks and sounds of things. But like I said, it's not clear yet if it's going to be like an older, more experienced guy like a Ken Holland as a president and like a younger guy they can groom as a GM, or if it's just going to be one person. There seems to be a mix of opinions that are floating out there. So we will see what happens. Now, as I mentioned, we got some offseason trade speculation around a few teams. Let's start with the Buffalo Sabres. Craig Rivet, of course, NHL veteran, currently with the After the Whistle podcast that he does with his buddy Andrew Peters, talking today about the fact that he feels that a Bo Byram trade this offseason seems pretty likely. The intel they were talking about today says that Byram apparently, when he left Buffalo for the offseason, then he packed up and left an empty house behind, feeling that he most likely isn't going to be back. We know Byram is needing a new contract. Of course, he came over in a big trade with the Colorado Avalanche for Casey Middlestat. Middlestat didn't work out too long in Colorado before they swapped him to the Boston Bruins. We know Byram, like I said, wants to be, from all the intel we heard on Byram before, is he wants an opportunity to be more of the top pair number one guy. Now, obviously, Buffalo has Owen Power. They have Rasmus Dahlin. Dahlin's worked his way up to be, one of the elite defensemen in the NHL, especially on the offensive side of the puck here. So I don't know if Byram's ever going to get that opportunity unless they really make drastic changes in Buffalo, which we're not expecting. I am expecting one or two changes on the D-core. I thought Byram is a pretty likely candidate. We've heard some rumbles about Power, but it's more likely than not that they try to bring in a better complementary partner for Power. I know Mattias Samuelsson's name has been out there as well. For a guy as big as Samuelsson is, I think they wish he would play a bigger game, a more physical game. That's why he's kind of on the block as well. But interesting to note about Byram's status, that it sounds like it's more likely, probably what he was told at exit meetings, that a trade may seem more likely than a new contract, but we'll have to see. I mean, Rivet and the boys at After the Whistle has been pretty accurate with info over the years, so I have to think that that's a pretty likely scenario that we see unfold. We also got confirmation as well that Kevin Adams is definitely going to be back as general manager after several days of talking and presenting with Terry Pegula, the owner, that he is indeed going to be staying on. So not really sure what he was presenting, how he pled his case. They've accomplished nothing really since he's been there as GM. A couple of 3 years ago, they came the closest they've had to getting in the playoffs in a while, and then in the last 2 years they've regressed. Then they regressed again. So, I'm shocked that he still has a job, to be completely honest. But I'm not Terry Pegula, so we'll see. I don't know that Pegula maybe just is it a money thing? He doesn't want to pay him to not work for him, or something like that, because I know from what we've heard that he still is under contract for GM for at least another year. And now he's worked in other roles with the new organization, so it's believed that when the time comes, Adams may not be fired. He might be reassigned, but yeah, it's just still surprising no matter what. Some reports out of New York as well indicate that, again, same sort of scenario when it comes to their living arrangements, but Mika Zibanejad has reportedly sold his condo, which he made a healthy profit on. I believe he bought it for around $9 million and it sold for like $13 or $14 million or something like that. So it's prompted people to kind of talk about the fact that maybe he will accept a trade. We know that names like Zibanejad and Kreider are very much out there as potential trade pieces, but we also know that Mika Zibanejad has a full no-move clause, and if he doesn't really want to move and he wants to dig in and not waive, that's his prerogative, and he can force himself to stay. Now, could it get uncomfortable? It sure could, but based on the comments that he's made to the media at the end of their season, it sure didn't sound like he was willing to work with them to waive and to move on. But at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily expect him to come out and talk about that publicly either, so it's a difficult situation to read. Just because he sold his condo and made a healthy profit, maybe it's just more of a opportunity for him to make some money. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's leaving town. Maybe he wants to relocate within New York. That's always a possibility too. It's just the timing of it seems kind of questionable, but we'll have to wait and see as we learn more about Zibanejad. But according to NHL insiders, and I know Dave Pagnorta was actually talking about this today as well in his latest update, that you're going to hear Kreider and Zibanejad's name out there. It's not 100% given they get moved because it's going to depend on the trades and obviously, what the returns are going to be. There's a lot more to it, but the Rangers are very, very interested in moving both players if they're able to. And another name to watch, according to Pagnorta, is Artemi Panarin. Of course, he was a big free agent signing for the Rangers, which really allowed them to accelerate that rebuild, and he's put up some pretty good offensive numbers during his tenure with the Rangers in the Big Apple. But, is it time for them to move on? Is it another player that, they may not want to or consider re-signing, so maybe they trade and get some assets back before the end of the contract? It's getting closer to the end of it now, and, it's hard to say with all the changes the team is going through. How long is he going to be there? It's probably not too much longer, so don't be surprised, according to Pagnorta, if you hear Panarin's name out there more. And again, he's got trade protection like Mika does as well, and to some degree Kreider. So it's not a given that it happens, but it is a name to watch and hear. And don't be surprised if they do figure out a creative way to make it happen. Now, in Montreal as well, Eric Engels was talking about, I think he was talking with Tony Marinaro in an interview, talking about some of the things we could see from the Habs this offseason. One of the names they talked about was Kirby Dach, and talking about how the Kirby Dach experiment as being the number 2 center, we know hasn't worked out. And we know that a lot of that has to do with injury, but even when he was healthy and had an extended look there, that it really wasn't where they liked him the best. They found that he had more success. They liked him better on the wing. I don't think the team really has any chance to look at him still as a number 2 center, because based on comments from Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes in their presser yesterday, it sure sounds like getting a number 2 centerman is high on their list of priorities this offseason. They thought they had a really good season. Of course, they're probably a little bit ahead of schedule, but with everything that's going on in Montreal, they definitely want to find ways to get better for next year so that it's not squeaking in the last day of the season. They want to be a little bit more secure making the playoffs, and they think they have the group to be a consistent playoff team and work their way up towards hopefully getting to the point where they're considered a cup contender down the road. They made mention as well to not only the number 2 center spot, but certainly getting bigger and stronger and tougher to play against is a high priority for them as well. They can go about that in a variety of ways. The expectations, we could see another move similar to what we saw when they acquired Doc or Newhook and those guys. Something maybe around the draft, early mid-20s. Maybe like Nick Suzuki's age, who is 25 or younger, that can be with the club on a longer-term basis would be the ideal candidate here. Now, this is not going to be an easy thing to do. They suggested that Doc will probably be given an opportunity to play on the wing on that second line with Ivan Demidov. If you can find a 2C to really secure between Doc and Demidov, they have high hopes that could be a really good second line for them next year. Now, we don't know about the future of Christian Dvorak. He very well, I think, has a good chance he's not coming back. And then you've still got some veterans there like Gallagher and Anderson. You got Jake Evans, who can be probably a 4C. Alex Newhook would then slide down to be a 3C if they bring in a new number 2. And that makes me wonder what the future of Patrick Laine. Where does Laine fit in all this? And do you see Laine being on your third line and being more of a power play specialist? Moving him would be challenging. He has a big salary, a little bit of a one-trick pony, but I know that, there's certainly some people that there's a variety. He's such a polarizing figure. And how you feel about him, it's hard to say. But if Doc is going to be given every opportunity to be the winger on that second line, and they bring in another number 2 center, and Demidov is going to be given every chance on that. Like I said, that just makes me wonder about the future of Laine. Where does he fit? Or do they, maybe not make a move with that in case Doc's not working out? But, we saw, Demidov and Laine didn't really clash together or work well together, but it's also a small sample size. Hard to say, but either way, the big thing for Montreal is that getting a number 2 center is a top priority, and obviously the future of Doc and Laine are going to be probably impacted by how next year goes, or depending on what else they do. I think that there's a possibility you could see Laine move this offseason, but again, that's far from a guarantee. Obviously, their cap space and everything's going to play a role in all this too. The Lane Hudson extension, if that comes, which I know they're going to work hard to try to get done, that could have a big impact on everything as well. So we'll have to wait and see. But if Doc's given an opportunity there, it's just, how does it impact Laine? So again, some interesting things to watch there from Montreal. So let me know your thoughts on what we discussed here today. Down in the comments, we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.